So we are connecting to the cloud server. Okay, new economy meeting number, I don't know, whatever we're up to. Okay, so to recap, for those of you who haven't been, who are not on the, for the vast audience out there that is going to watch this on YouTube, that I raised the question of industrial heat. How are we going to get industrial heat from renewables? And there appears to be a problem with this because we need, for industrial heat, you need very high temperature. And so how are we going to do this for renewables? And one proposal is to use the extra solar and wind to generate natural gas or ammonia or something else, hydrogen, something, and then save it up and use it. And the problem is that this process isn't very efficient. And Silas said, Silas was asked the question of nuclear fusion. And so, Silas, what about nuclear fusion?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of research is happening in nuclear fusion, but I haven't been keeping up with it. And I'm sure, you know, when we put our minds to it, we will figure this out. But our intention has to be right. You know, our intention has to be to create this sustainable economy that benefits everybody. It shouldn't be for individual profit. And, you know, and once we put all that down, I think we'll solve all these problems. I don't have any doubt about that. And it, you know, and make sure that we're being truthful about the impact that we have on the environment. And that we need to be able to close the loop, right? So, but I wanted to bring up a couple of procedural issues. You know, first of all, we want to make the new economy group as an umbrella group so that Aquarius and some of the other problems that other study groups that are going on are really part of new economy. So in the sense that, you know, they are looking at specific issues within the new economy, and then eventually new economy group will be the place where we come and resolve any overlap, any resource requirements and whatnot. So yes. It becomes like a working group in the old parlance that I'm used to, the IEEE parlance.
Can I share the diagram?
Yeah, please, Ray, show the diagram. Yeah.
The diagram.
This is a map of the study groups that are there on Basecamp right now, and how they sort of, how they connect with each other. Are you able to share, Ray?
I'm still not seeing it.
Very slow, but I think we'll get there.
Oh, there you go.
Here we are. Ray Kowalchuk has started screen sharing. Okay, yeah, I see that. Okay, so you got VCI in the middle. Then you've got some groups. Let's see, there's the new economy, there's spiritual, and there's sort of like 5 subgroups: spiritual, social justice working group, nature stewardship working group, and food and water security. That's interesting. Then under new economy, we've got holding the media to account, medical education, compassionate commerce, Aquarius, which I guess is this new currency we're coming up with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then changing jobs and animal industry hospice. Medical.
You notice that they're connected to new economy, but they're also connected to each other, the changing jobs and an animal industry hospice, because animal industry hospices, as the meat industry, dairy industry closes down, we need to try to transition people out of that industry. And changing jobs is kind of the broader spectrum of, as we switch to nonviolent systems, there's going to be a lot of jobs that disappear and new jobs that are created. So keeping track of that paradigm. One that's kind of interesting about this, that was kind of revealed by this structure, was that food and water security kind of has 2 pathways. One is the economy, because food obviously is tied to the economy, but it also goes through the nature stewardship working group, through agricultural impacts and so forth. So there'll be tiny dots are representatives. This is kind of projecting a future system where we'll have a lot more people involved with our groups, but there'll be delegates and facilitators for each group. That's what the D and the F are for.
Oh,
That's
that's
kind
nice.
of a future development.
So is this going to be posted on the internet somewhere? Or is it already probably?
We're probably going to have a full training of how all this works. We're developing that right now. So we're not just going to, create documents and throw them at people. We're going to try to shepherd everybody through this process of understanding. It also includes this sociocracy circles, where we have that large circle in the middle is the steering committee for all the other groups. And the work groups are, kind of the hub for each one of these 5 different thematic areas.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Keith has naturally gravitated to be leader of 2 that have become working groups, the New Economy and Nature Stewardship. So this brings into question, now that we've changed the system on you, are you interested in managing working groups?
Okay, so yeah, Nature Stewardship Working Group, New Economy, is that a working group?
Yeah, it's like it's like an umbrella group which has little other task forces or other study groups, coming in.
See.
Because basically we have to coordinate all of these, right? So making sure that they are not overlapping, they're not conflicting with each other in the kind of work they do, and so on. So in a way, this is where we all get together and make sure that we are making sense in a larger picture. Right? The larger picture.
You'll recall, Keith, that in previous meetings you've said, well, if we're trying to figure out what the new economy is, and this other group is developing a currency, don't we have to build something that's dependent on what they come up with? So this kind of answers that question. Are they the dog that wags the tail? No, we're the dog. They're the tail. They have to answer to you now in this paradigm. If that is, we want to remain in charge of the working group itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are these
smaller groups tend to be study groups.
Okay.
More topical, more narrow focused.
Study groups. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's study groups, working groups, and the VCI, which is in the middle. What's that exactly?
It's the project. It's the big project.
Oh, it's the project. It's the committee of all committees or something.
Exactly. So everybody's a member of that. They come and we talk about what each bubble is doing, and then make sure that we're addressing all the questions, right? Things. So it's a way to just coordinate our actions in this Basecamp.
Is everybody a part of it? Everybody can be a part of it. Is this delegation scheme they've got with sociocracy? Does that mean that delegates or anybody that comes up with a concept that they want to champion will bring it to the VCI?
Right, they can bring it to the VCI, and VCI would say maybe go to New Economy and present it there. That's probably where it's appropriate. And then New Economy could form a study group underneath that, whatever. So VCI is a place where we are coordinating all of our actions around Basecamp, right? And so making sure that that every part receives the resources it needs, and so it's a place where we all come together. Okay, VCI, VW 2026, and so economists people who are working on the economy will be the New Economy Working Group. Underneath that, there is Changing Jobs, Aquarius, and so on. So these are study groups underneath that. I also, we are compiling a book, an anthology on animal agriculture is immoral. So that's the title of the book.
Animal agriculture and what?
Is immoral.
Oh, animal agriculture is immoral. Yeah, I could go with that.
Yeah. So we are soliciting, articles, submissions on that. I'll put it up on Basecamp. I haven't done that. I first put it up to all the people who we interviewed in a prayer for compassion. So they have been submitting, but I'll put it up on Basecamp so anyone can submit articles to that. And so as part of that, I'm writing something about the new economy, meaning I'm writing something about the economy so we understand why animal agriculture is the foundation of the old economy. And without it, the whole thing would collapse. So to do that, I actually am imagining all of humanity as a family of 8. Okay, this is like the 100 people project, right? Where in the 100 people project, you say if the world were 100 people, how many people are educated? How many people don't have education? Something like that. So in a way, it's a way to record statistics. But here I'm saying, the world is 8 people. So it's like a family of 8 people. And how are we conducting our economy if it was a family of 8 people? Okay. So you would say one person is basically sitting on a computer telling others what to do. Okay. And right. So that's basically, the colonial system we have. And one person is probably going out there mining and doing all these things, right? So to make it possible for the others to do their work. And so 2 people are doing animal agriculture. Anyway, things like that. So I'm creating this story around a family of 8 people who are doing this work, and then pointing out why animal agriculture is the foundation of that. So it sort of comes out in that story. And so that then would help us understand how would you build a new economy if you had just 8 people, okay, in that family? How would you create an economy in which everyone feels like they're treated fairly? Everyone feels like, so that we implement the 7 core shifts, right? So that's how I'm writing that article for the book, the anthology. And I want to offer that as a working paper for the New Economy group. So you can start with that.
So animal agriculture is the basis of the whole economy?
Without it, the whole economy, the current economy will collapse.
Oh, really?
That's the claim I'm making. Yeah.
Done a fair amount of research on that.
Yeah, I've done a fair amount of research on that. Basically, it will eliminate the scarcity model, right? That's driving the current system.
It's also the weakest link in the corporatocracy.
Yeah.
Big chemical and big pharma, big banks, big defense, big investment companies, big media, big tech. They're all pretty strong at this point, but if you consider this network of everything that makes money must continue to make money, and there's this protection between these different industries, where is the weakest link? It has to be meat, and specifically within meat, dairy is a industry that's really taking it on the chin and showing its signs of obsolescence.
Yeah.
So once you observe the demise of one industry, you kind of have a model to predict and chart the end of each one as they go. And that's a good job for us to do, is to observe that systemic decay and help along whenever you can, or at least onboard the people who will go down with the ship if nothing else is done. That's kind of under the title of hospice.
So anyway, this is not a new observation I'm making. It's something that Will Tuttle has written about in his book. I'm just sort of giving a scientific basis for his observations. I mean, he had an intuitive understanding of why that's the case. That without animal agriculture, the animal agriculture is the foundation of this violent system we are in.
Yeah, well, I would be interested in maybe if you could. So you don't want to post this somewhere?
I'm going to post it. Yeah, I mean, you mean the story that I'm writing?
Actually, this chart here.
Yeah. We're going to post it. We have been working on cleaning it up, because it wasn't in this state before.
So I'm interested that. Okay, first of all, Nature Stewardship Working Group hasn't done anything for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I might want to back out of that, at least just because I mean, if you just want somebody to sit in a chair and say, this is nature stewardship, I could do that. But, you know, to actually do something, I'm not sure what I can do to get people interested. There were just sort of like people just sort of left.
Well, that might be the least job description that we need, that people just to keep scheduling the next group, act as a, I guess, a focal point, just as a moderator for a Zoom meeting. And it's up to me. One of my ambitions is to get people active and involved in groups. So I'll try to get more people involved, both within Basecamp and without. Try to recruit more people from outside of Basecamp who are interested in these. And we haven't really done an awful lot of marketing. So I think that we have a marketing person coming on board as a volunteer. So we'll have, hopefully have more of a stream of people to be engaging in discussions.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's happening. You know, we're going to be organizing like weekly webinars for the study groups, starting not this weekend, but next weekend. And the first one will be the Normalizing Vegan Food Task Force. And so we're going to be talking about the app that we are writing as part of that. So then every week, an active study group is going to present, and it's going to have a discussion that's going to be open to the public, so that people can participate in it and then, you know, want to join or not join, you know, whatever. So that it becomes a place where we can brainstorm openly, you know, in a big chunk of time, so 4 hours. And then we are going to suggest that these active study groups create like a 12-minute video. And there will be people who are creative people who are already on Basecamp who will be helping us. We're going to be recruiting them to create these 12-minute videos so that we have a sort of a proposal for what a vegan world 2026 looks like. Okay, that's the idea. So the way we are structuring those 12-minute videos, it's with Kimaya as, you know, as the 2020 version of you know, looking at what is happening now, and then someone who is going to represent Kimaya in the year 2050, you know, saying that, oh, the world is thriving now, and so this is what happened in the decade from 2020 to 2026 for us to get there. So it's like imagining, I mean, creating a vision for the future and imagining how we got there. So some kind of story like that, so that it becomes like an initial proposal for Vegan World 2026, right? So sort of a mind mapping, okay, for how we got there. And then we can refine it. So the idea is create these 12-minute videos, which is like a small segment of solutions, and then see if we are all making sense, you know? I mean, do all these videos, when you put together, do they make sense, or are there conflicts, and we need to figure this out? So, because, you know, ultimately, if you ask me, how do we solve these problems? Say, we have to be compassionate to all life, right? It's not that complicated. But then how do we organize ourselves within that, right? Within that constraint. So it is sort of reimagining how humans organize ourselves in that new environment. So for nature stewardship, I know Arvind is working on an app for funding southern forests, so that, you know, there are people who are actively reforesting, you know, with local forests, local ecosystems, and how did we get funding to them? So maybe the story will be around, yeah, we got a lot of funding to them, and they brought back the forests, and a lot of people got involved in regenerating forests. Once we sorted out the basic food and shelter issues, people had time to do what they wanted. So that's the sort of story we want to tell. Okay.
Okay. So you've got medical education under the new economy. Wouldn't it? So I guess everything to do with health is under economy.
One of the reasons that group is called education, because it's analyzing what's wrong with our medical education system. And it's largely because it's too heavily linked to the economy and needs to be teased out from that. And, you know, create space so that we can talk about these topics, because there's just too much money being made in meat. That's another one of those links between these divisions of the corporatocracy, that everything gets protected. Even the health industry seems to be protecting the meat industry.
Yeah, it's a you know, I mean, it's part of the disease model right now, which is generating a lot of economic activity. And so when you change that to a health model, okay, it's in the new economy, how does that promote the new economy? Right? So that's a question that we need to ask. Because that is part of economy. To me, is how do we organize ourselves as human beings, and what are we doing, right? How do we organize our activities, and what exactly are we doing? So these doctors are going to be doing preventive medicine. They're going to be, I mean, there'll be fewer of them. Not, you don't need lots of doctors to you know, operate on people and things like that, right? Because we have a more healthy society to start with. So that's what we imagine it to be. You know? That's why we put it under economy. Anyway, these are all open to discussions. We are just going to put it out, and then this is our initial cut at it.
Okay. Well, I look forward to whatever you come up with here. Yeah, so I look forward to that.
You said that you've been studying some things under the new economy umbrella. Would they fit in under any of these groups, under any of these categories? Are there any more categories that we would need?
It's basically the stuff that you know about. It's the I would start with like Herman Daly's 10 points, Kate Rayworth, et cetera, et cetera. And I would just develop, you know, ideas about how, you know, things that we need to do in order to make the economy work better, including, which would include banking, commerce, currency as one of the things, but would also include limits on natural resources, community control of all natural resources, essentially, and also community control of distribution of wealth. And I think once you've got those two things, then you can pretty much let initiative and free enterprise go with what's left. But I don't think you can let them control the question of how big the economy gets, or how you distribute the wealth. I think that has to be determined by the community.
Yeah, that is part of the Aquarius model. There is actually Santiago, who is a student at University of Illinois. He's a PhD scholar. He's finishing his PhD right now. So he's working on modeling. He and Pareen Sachdeva, who's doing her PhD at Tata Institute of Social Studies, they're both working on creating a model for the Aquarius economy. So it's like a model for how do we measure the change in entropy that happens with economic activity, and make sure that that's accounted for correctly in your costing structures, so that you're not. So that ultimately, when we say this is what our ecological footprint was, it does match what happened in reality, right? That's the idea. And to do that, you have to have feedback loops that match the two. So, so they're meeting. They've been meeting. They met once, I think this Monday, and they're meeting like once every 2 weeks. I think roughly twice a month.
That was recorded too. So
that was recorded. Yeah, that's all.
That.
And then we have a facilitator for Aquarius who seems to be enthusiastic, who's going to get things going. And so the general Aquarius group is meeting like once a month. So they met on Monday evening, and they're going to meet again in July. The first Monday of every month they're meeting until we get that worked out. So this is, I mean, this is what the story that we would tell in the 12-minute vignettes. There'll be one story about what we did with the currency, and so stuff like that. So we put something together, and when people watch, because not many people watch my webinars, and even though my webinars are also fairly long, like there are 7 hours of it, and they are just broad brush ideas, right? They really don't have much meat in them, and so that's what this is creating. And it's going to be short vignettes, and people can watch small segments, 12 minutes each, and then decide what they want to contribute towards. So this is what Nivi, who's the marketing specialist she used to work for Unilever until she got religion, and she quit, and she's been a vegan for 2 years, and so she's been trying to utilize all the things that she learned to make the vegan movement grow. Okay, so she's coming on board to help with the marketing of this.
Okay, who's this?
Her name is Nivi Jaswal. And so she used to be, I'll type it out. I think she just joined Basecamp, but they're going through an onboarding process with her. So she may not be the main group yet.
Yes.
And so she used to be brand manager, brand director for several brands in Unilever for Asia. So it's like, how do you market Lifebuoy soap? That was one of her products as well. And Unilever is very good at marketing. Not that that's a good thing, and she regrets that too. She feels, I think, a lot of guilt around the fact that she marketed all that to people. But it gave her a good understanding of psychology, of social psychology. How do you get mass transformations to happen? And so she's bringing that to bear. And so, so she's been sending me these great ideas for how to do these short videos, that you can put together into a documentary eventually, but have a common theme. And the common theme would be basically Kimaya growing up. So Kimaya is like a spokesperson for now, and then someone would be a spokesperson for her when she's 40 years old in the year 2050. And so she's basically looking back and saying, that's really what we did. And maybe Kimaya will appear in black and white because she represents the past at that point. In 2010, this is what we did. 2020.
Well, I was just thinking about what Keith just said about what he's studying, and I was going to ask if that fits into the domain of a working group. It sounds like study, so it should be a study group, one of the satellites of a working group. This would be something that you
I think the clean energy would be like a study group, which is what Keith is doing. He's looking at industrial heat and how do you supply industrial heat for the new energy economy. Or maybe it's a new energy economy. New energy.
Well, I meant more the Herman Daly and Kate Raworth donut economics. That's why I just added a little satellite to the new economy there called donut economics. The one about heat is kind of a
that should be a renewable study group, like some kind of renewable energy study group that would be determining how do we do these things, right? How do you
I would say under this scenario, because I just sort of subsumed it, you would consider you'd have to have an energy study group,
right?
That would deal with all the problems with energy transition, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah.
Transition is kind of a environmental domain, so that'd be the
nature stewardship. So you may have, it may be a study group that's under new economy that also has reps from nature stewardship. So I mean, the way it used to work, I mean, I'm just taking things from what we used to do back in the days and putting it together. So, I mean, yeah, and Ray has been tremendous at getting this ordered, organized like this. But basically, the way we used to do it was, there were study groups that had overlaps with other study groups from even different working groups areas. But for overlaps, we used to send delegates, and we used to send delegates from there to here. So we had a token ring delegate to the Ethernet group, and an Ethernet delegate to the token ring group.
Yeah. New economy really relates to social justice because part of or as I conceived it, of like how big does the economy get and how do we distribute the wealth? That's obviously related to social justice. And it's also related to nature stewardship because you have to determine how big the economy is. And, you have to leave some space for, and actually it sort of relates to everything except spiritual, I guess.
Even spiritual, it relates to that because spiritual is going to determine how much people are going to demand from you for the new economy, right? So this is why VCI is the central circle, VW 2026, which is where everyone is connected, through this. And so you get the appropriate liaisons from here to there.
Our little dots may be misleading in that sense that it's kind of creating this linear linkage, whereas delegates, it makes sense for them to just recognize that there are spiritual elements in this dilemma. We need a delegate to the spiritual circle.
You'll get spiritual people to come and join the new economy group and be there as long as you need that aspect of the study, right? They will be there. So there will be cross-pollination that way, okay, in all of these.
Your project that was talking about animal agriculture is unethical, obviously has social justice overtones, animal justice. So there's an opportunity for delegations there, and that should be where all the people deeply versed in animal ethics would obviously be interested in that kind of a project.
Right. I mean, we are saying we are calling it animal agriculture is immoral. I mean, I just took it from a couple of mainstream articles where they were calling it immoral. And I'm saying if they're calling it immoral, why isn't the spiritual community coming out and saying it? And so I asked them if they would come out and say it, and they're all jumping at it, saying, yeah, of course it's immoral. So I've gotten a lot of contributions already. And so it's very interesting, how different people's perspectives on why they consider it immoral. And why it needs to change today. So it's going to be a very interesting anthology. And we'll have it online and we'll also publish it as a book. We'll probably self-publish it as a book. Okay, depending on how many contributions we get, it may be a paperback or it may be a hardcover.
So, Justice, are you following all this?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm just listening in. The only comment I have so far is you were talking about medical education. Michael Clapper. Are you familiar with Michael Clapper?
Absolutely. He's on Basecamp.
Okay. Well, he's the expert. He's been talking to medical schools for 20 years, and he certainly is the leading thought leader in that field.
Right. Yeah, even Dr. McDougall is on Basecamp now. So, and they're both, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine will become the new medical education hub, so to speak. And so it's basically centered around lifestyle medicine.
Other than that, I didn't have anything to add.
Are you able to see all this, Justice, or are you on the phone?
None of it. I'm just on the phone.
Okay, all right.
I live in the woods without internet.
Okay, got it. So yeah, that's what I had today. I wanted to get you up to speed on and bring you on board with this.
Okay, so I still don't know quite what I'm supposed to do, but for the time being, as long as all I have to do is sit in a chair and listen to people, I can do that. Although actually, and here's a problem I need to raise at some point, is that Wednesday evenings are becoming a little awkward.
Okay.
Because we've like next week I can't make it because I've got a Denver Vegans event. Denver Vegans, like a long time ago, before I joined Basecamp, set up Wednesday evening, the second Wednesday for Ask a Vegan, and I didn't even think about that. And I as you'll recall, last month I missed it too for the same reason. So we may have to switch it. But in principle, as long as I have to do is sit here and direct traffic, I'm happy. I do have some interest in like the donut economics and the compassionate commerce, I think. And I'm not sure if you have a trade study group. You might want to have.
Not yet, yeah. But it probably has to happen too.
Resource. This might be sort of like a combination of energy and you almost need like a metals and minerals study group too, because a lot of these renewable, like all this wonderful computer equipment that we're going to use to coordinate the new economy, it's going to take like it takes rare earth minerals and so forth, and then some renewables we've got to straighten. This is something that we have to sort of analyze, that the renewables need some rare earth minerals too, or at least some of them do. So it becomes sort of an issue, and how long are they going to last, et cetera, et cetera. We have all the sort of classic limits to growth kinds of problems. You probably might want to have a population study group too, to determine, is this an issue? What kind of issue is it? Where does it fit in? So I would say population also. So I'm not writing this down, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head. This is what I would sort of like. These are the kinds of things I was thinking about bringing up in terms of the new economy. And I think some of the questions that we came up with addressed it and so forth, but no one's really tried to focus on it yet. But I would say, just the things that I mentioned, the population, energy, and soil erosion. I guess that's going to fall under
nature stewardship, probably.
Nature stewardship. Yeah, I guess that'll be under there. And water security. Yes, so you've already got that down, and so that'll sort of overlap with nature stewardship too.
Right. See, I would suggest that every study group should be under one working group.
Yes.
And then there will be delegates from others. So we don't have to connect them directly. So we can have them under one. So that's where the resolutions happen. Because otherwise it becomes really cumbersome. Because people will say, I'm connected to that too, I'm connected to that too. And so we normally just have it under one group, because that's where whatever the product for that group will be issued under that group. So product could be an app, it could be a white paper, it could be the software, whatever, right?
Here's another group, cultural change. It's sort of the closest one it comes to is spiritual, but it's like, it's not, I don't want to it's not, I could make a case that it should truly be spiritual, but like, how do we get people to change their everyday attitudes towards, nature, for example, other people, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't even, but it seems like that would require cultural change at some level. So how do is there a way to conceptualize that? And where does that fit in?
Yeah, cultural transformation. It's basically, it comes under this new story that we are telling, right? So there is an overarching new story that we are telling about humanity and our place in nature, and what are we doing, this transformation that we're undertaking, going from a caterpillar to the butterfly. These are all stories that we are telling, right?
Yes.
And that requires, that means that you want to get more and more people to adopt these new stories. Yeah. And say, yeah, we are also in alignment with that. That's how the movement grows. And when that happens, that is a cultural transformation that happens. Because culture to me is a set of values that how do we treat each other? How do we treat nature? And then typically it also involves, assuring people that this is sustainable. Sustainable meaning, you can continue to infinity. You can live forever. That's the idea behind sustainability. Like this, you can live forever. So it's some kind of immortality. Every culture offers that to people who adhere to that culture.
I created one called New Paradigm of Energy and attached it to Nature Stewardship, because really we have a paradigm of energy. It's just not one that fits within any concept of nature stewardship. So I'm just trying to think of a study group that may be up Keith's alley based on what he was talking about earlier. You've also brought up, Sailesh, the idea of one working group rather than 5. And that would be presumably separate from the VCI Collective Intelligence Group?
No. I never said there should be one working group and not 5.
Okay.
No, there are multiple working groups. Like the economy is separate from spiritual, separate from justice. So those are different working groups. And then VCI is a place where we kind of coordinate around all of them. So that's the place where everyone comes together, right?
Mm-hmm. We've got this is the meeting of the New Economy study group, which now has become a working group.
Yeah.
How would it operate differently? Are we doing a working group right now, or is it?
No. Right now we're not doing a working group, right? Because the way it would operate once it's acknowledged as a working group is that Aquarius will be sending 2 people over to talk about what are they doing in Aquarius, what has happened so far from the compared to the previous meeting. So typically the working group meets a little less regularly than the study group. The study group is where lots of activity is happening. The working group is where the coordination happens, right? So meaning Aquarius will send delegates, people who are studying changing jobs will send delegates. People who are holding the immediate account will send delegates. So there will be like a meeting of the minds in the New Economy group. Okay. So that's typically what happens in a working group is that every study group or every task force comes and tells what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And then the working group says, yeah, makes sense. Or they say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So typically you get feedback or collective intelligence at a higher level at the working group than you do at the study group level. Study group, you get, focused collective intelligence happening because people are putting their minds together to solve that particular problem. But when you come to a higher level, people are going to point out that what you're doing there, has this connotation with respect to what the others are doing here. And have you coordinated? So the delegations happen. People are sent from one group to another. And that sort of thing happens. So that ultimately we have a very coordinated group that's working in concert for a larger purpose, which is Vegan World 2026.
So this is the last meeting of the New Economy study group. Keith's going to decide if there's another day of the week that's better for him. It sounds like
Wednesday. It could be another day of the week. Maybe you want to meet just once a month, Keith, so you can get more people to come.
So who's going to deal with what's going to be the study group that's going to do what the working group had been doing up to now.
Yeah, you have to form a study group that would do that. We can form one, for,
Okay, yeah, I would say, yeah, okay, fine. Okay, I'll look at this, but I could suggest about 6 or 8 different possible groups that would that you could form.
If you want to turn this into the donut economics study group, and you pick another time to preside on that,
right.
I'm willing to join that. I'm sure that's something that Shankar is interested in. So I'm not sure what's the minimum number required for a study group. Probably 1.
Yes, although hopefully 2. But yeah. It sounds like donut economics.
Oh, no. I mean, study group, yeah, it can be done by just one person doing research. Yeah.
Oh, okay, one person. I just sort of quibble at the term group.
Right.
Well, you could have a group of 1. I know. Okay.
So I shared an excellent video about how we work well alone quite often.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will look at all of this, but I would say probably, yeah, I would be best. Well, I don't know. I'll look at all this, and maybe we'll try to come up with a working group that will do sort of what I wanted to do with the new economy. I mean, I form a study group that would sort of do what the new economy, formerly this new economy study group, was doing.
Right.
Sure, I'll take a look at that. Looks like justice.
Working groups kind of seem like something that would come up in a while after these groups have met a few times and have something to present, and then they call the bonfire of new economy, and then the representatives bring whatever they have and say, this is what we're working on. And they go, oh, well, that's cool. That's similar to what we're working on, or that fills in the gaps of some of our research here. So that's, I imagine, how it would play out.
Yeah.
Silas?
Yeah, that's how it would play out. And I mean, typically, I mean, all these study groups, every study group just connects to one larger working group. So I wouldn't put any in the diagram. I wouldn't put. This is why I suggested everything with the same color. Put them together, okay? Because you've identified with the color, you've identified what the main working group is. There are always going to be liaisons from one to another, okay? And it could be
when you say there's one working group, you mean there's 5 individual working groups?
Yeah. Meaning any study group or task force is associated with one working group only, not multiple working groups, right?
Yeah. Although I think that I think that you may get tangled up because I mean there's some. So donut economics automatically connects with the new economy working group and the social justice working group. Because
I completely understand that. That was the case in what we were doing as well. But there also, what we did was there was the main group that it would connect to, which is where all the work product would be issued under, and then there would be liaisons from spiritual or social justice to donut economics.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes.
Just to be obvious, we're not talking about that center circle, the Vegan World 2026 BCI. It's not a working group of all these. It's not that central working group.
This is what we used to call project. BCI is like the project. Vegan World 2026 is the project, right?
The overall project.
Overall project. And the overall project had multiple working groups. And then each working group had multiple study groups and task forces.
So we're reflecting that pretty good in this diagram, right?
Right. We are reflecting that except for where the colors, where the circles touch multiple colors.
So what would you say for veganic permaculture, which has elements of land use and food?
I would put it under food, and then the land use would send someone who's like a liaison.
Okay,
Because
that's what I intended to illustrate here. It's color-coded cyan, like food and water security, but it's got a connection with the nature stewardship, implying that sooner or later there's an overlap here.
Yeah, but you don't have to put that implication because it complicates the diagram, and people will say, I don't understand what this is, and they'll say, they throw their hands up, right? I would put it straight under food and water security, and then have the, and then say that there will be people, not just from nature stewardship, there'll be people from social justice also to that. So there will be cross-pollination that happens depending on what the needs are for each group. There'll be plenty of cross-pollination that's not even that's not even shown here right now. Okay, there is plenty of those that will happen. Okay, but ultimately the idea is the work products that you're sending out are all have coherent. They're coherent. So when people look from the outside, it looks like these guys are working in concert. They're going in the same direction towards a vegan world 2026. So that anytime that there is some kind of conflict meaning A is saying something, but B is contradicting that. Okay? That needs to have been resolved earlier before it goes out to the public, as much as possible. That's what we tried to do, as much as possible. Sometimes the public did find conflicts. They did find places where we didn't match. And then we had to then go and clean up our work products. Right? But for most part, it works this way. It works when you do it this way. Simplify it so that there's only one working group that you're under. And that's through that working group is where you get things sent out.
Sometimes there's things that when simplified automatically produce the same questions over and over and over again. Is agricultural impacts a food issue or is it a nature issue? If the biggest impact on nature is agriculture impacts, then it belongs in that group. But if it directly relates to food and water security, then you're kind of having this silo of two different groups.
Right.
This is illustrating to make sure that you don't have a silo between these and that there's independent decision of how land use is working.
Right.
And we saw issues of that with veganic permaculture, where we kind of had a meeting where we talked about food forests.
Mm-hmm.
And after like a good hour and a half, we had a great conversation about food forests. And Greg Leitis said, well, we can't have all food forests. We need to have a huge amount of rewilding. So there's a push and pull and some happy balance between these two. But if you have...
Right, yeah, but even the wild animals do eat food, right? So basically we are creating food forests, and we may be even creating food forests in the wild areas too. And they will eat that. And we don't have to harvest everything that we call food forests. In fact, if you look at what has happened in the Amazon, I think a lot of that, or even North America before it got deforested, a lot of that was indigenous people actually creating food forests. This is why they were able to withstand colonial pressure for a long time, because they knew how to get food in the forest. And because that's what they had done. And so a lot of, we will be reforesting and rewilding. In Sadhana forest, what they're doing in Sadhana forest, you can call that food forest, you can also call it rewilding, because they are using native fruit trees, native shrubberies. So it's basically all native forests, and the local birds and the local animals are very happy with those forests because it's also food for them.
Okay, so I will await further discussion of this chart, and I have some suggestions for some new study groups, which if I don't pick them up from this actual meeting, I haven't been necessarily been writing them all down, but I'll try to send them to Ray, are you the one that's coordinating this chart or what?
Yeah. This is Ray's chart.
Okay, so it's Ray's chart. So I will communicate with you directly, Ray. And for the time being, we'll say that the new economy study group is no more, but the working group continues. But but it's not going to be having meetings, or how are we going to do this?
The working group also has meetings, but you will be getting people from Aquarius coming and talking about what they did in Aquarius. People from holding the mediator account task force coming and telling you what they did during that. So the meeting will become more about coordinating all these different study groups.
Okay, great. So I have to be in a study group if I want to generate any ideas.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. Okay, so I'm going to want to be in some study groups.
Sounds good. I mean, typically everyone in a working group is also in some study group, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Let's see. Okay, so I await further details of how you're going to do this. But let's see. So is there anything else?
One thing to consider is you said this week, so Wednesday's no good for you anymore. Is there another day of the week that's good for whatever?
I have to get my calendar. If it's going to be all people from different groups, then it's probably going to be ad hoc anyway.
Yeah.
I think the next thing you plan is your study group, whether it's donut economics. I wrote one in called New Paradigm of Energy attached to new Nature Stewardship Working Group. Whatever you want to call it, whatever, and maybe there's some way that you can combine those ideas.
I would say I would attach it to new economy myself. The whole renewables thing.
Yeah.
There is a connection to nature stewardship if you get into biofuels, but I think that's not going to be the dominant fuel, or maybe it is. We'll see.
Isn't this like the environmental idea of new energy? Because we have energy now. It's combustible energy, which isn't congruent with our nature, which is why it needs to change. So what is the new paradigm of energy that fits within our natural boundaries?
Well, all economic processes will require energy of some sort. They can come from human labor, or it can come from wood, or it can come from fossil fuels. Oh, we don't want that. So it's just like the thing of the whole Green New Deal issues, all that. That's what I'm thinking of as the energy study group. So
what about economy?
Nature stewardship, but I don't think that would be the primary working group. I think it would be new. I mean, just my thought off the bat would be new economy.
It's always fascinated me that you chose new economy and nature stewardship, because those are the two forces that are constantly at loggerheads with each other. Maybe that's what that study group is: economy versus nature. Is that?
No, it's economy and nature, right? So, meaning, the new energy will be under economy, but it is going to be done in a way that is cognizant of the fact that you are in part of nature. So it could be mostly renewable with a little bit of fossil fuels. Who knows how we're going to come up, break it down, mostly storage, who knows, right? So, I mean, right now we are saying, it's very expensive to convert things into this and that, but expensive in what sense? In the current way we are measuring things, right? So maybe it's cost effective in the new way of measuring things. Who knows?
Actually,
anyway,
economics really does cover both of those, because the outside the donut is the 9 planetary boundaries, and the inner ring is the sustainable development goals.
Right.
That's plenty of overlap with nature stewardship. So that's kind of an interesting, and it fits into energy, has to fit into that donut economics.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
All right.
We'll find a new time to figure out what the next group is going to meet. As for the who's leading these 5 different groups, Sailesh, are you automatically part of all of the 5?
Yeah, I mean, at present, I'm part of everything, so I'm getting all the activities, so I know what's going on, most of them. But at some point, I probably have to back out of some of these. I mean, I'm also
not. They only meet once a month, and that's 5 meetings a month.
Yeah, that's not a problem. So if you're meeting once a month initially, yeah, that should be fine. We can do this because Aquarius is meeting once a month, so they won't have anything to report every week. So it's something once a month. So maybe even New Economy Working Group should meet once a month initially, and then we can have these different study groups meeting once a month or twice a month or whatever it makes more sense.
For a working group to meet, you'd have to have some representatives want to meet.
Right.
I think.
When they have something to report, then this is where they report it, and get people to go, yeah, great idea, pat on the back.
Yeah, basically the lead, right? The facilitator. Sorry, Ray.
And then if the idea is generally hailed on all parts, then it's presented to the vegan intelligence, collective intelligence.
Right. So then the new economy will come and say to the collective intelligence, this is really what happened in the economy groups. So it's like becomes a shorter and shorter summary. Okay. Until the work product comes out. When the work product comes out, whatever it is, whether it's a white paper or a specification or software or something, then everyone gets to comment on it. Everyone gets to use it and test it out and try it out and put their feedback in. Okay? At the VCI level. And then at the new economy level, it'll be whoever is interested in economy will be commenting on it. So we do this internal vetting of our, like even the white paper, right? The white paper is being vetted in the white paper study group. And then eventually we'll publish it out. That's the way it should go. I mean, right now what is happening is I have been putting it on Climate Healers. And then once everyone here, everyone in the Basecamp puts their comments in, and then we refine the white paper, we will put it out as a VW 2026 white paper. Okay, Vegan World 2026 white paper. So it sort of comes out of the larger group. There's no longer one author for it. It's the group's contribution, not my contribution.
So we've got Aquarius is slightly ahead of us. They've had their first meeting and have set up their plans of when they're going to meet again and convene as a group. There's that separate Santiago's meeting with I forget.
With Pareen
to they've got their own study group going in a sense.
The modeling.
Aquarius is eventually going to need a new economy working group to present to.
Yeah. They'll need a pair.
Just give us some kind of idea when that would happen based on their schedule?
Yeah, I would say maybe next month if we have a meeting on after the first Monday. So if say we meet, New Economy meets, like, say the second Monday or the second Wednesday of every month, then we can ask the Aquarius, we can ask Ankit to come to the New Economy Working Group meeting and then also send a delegate. So it won't be just Ankit, someone else from the Aquarius group should also come. So this way, so what used to happen is the facilitator comes and presents like 5 minutes. He gets given 5 minutes and he presents what they did in the Aquarius group. And then people from the Aquarius group would be there and they would say, actually, some of what he said is not true because this is really what happened. Because everyone comes with a bias, right? So there is some discussion that goes on around that. So that's how we made sure that we got an unbiased perspective of what happened in every study group.
It's also a funnel where everybody that's related to New Economy in their study group has that ability to listen to everything that's going on. So it's a bit of a forum in that sense. And it creates a item in the schedule to aim for. Let's have something to show by the time that New Economy Working Group comes around, so we don't look like we're sitting on our hands.
Yeah. So what also we used to do in the working group was that every meeting there was one study group that was kind of featured. So they got half an hour to talk about what they did. So they can put out a much more detailed perspective
Breaking up.
of what they did, economics or whatever.
Okay,
right?
John.
So yeah, let me turn off my video. So what we used to do in every working group meeting was to feature one study group or one task force, and give them more of the time, say half an hour of the time, so they can talk about in detail what they did. And it turned out, I mean, usually every study group got one opportunity like that, okay, until they started really doing their project and doing their work. And then they got an opportunity once they finished their work, or somewhere in between. So this way, every working group meeting had a featured study group that could, even though every study group had 5 minutes to talk, there was one study group that had more to talk about. So that's how we were organizing things.
Okay, well, this is like, I can't just decide off the bat what I'm going to do. But I would say the first thing is that this is, from now on, this is going to be the New Economy working group, not the New Economy study group.
Mm-hmm.
And that right now we have no meetings scheduled. I would say
Right.
that, and we'll just sort it out what's going to happen. But I would say to be a true working group, you would need to have people from the other groups, the study groups, reporting and wanting to say something.
Right.
So I'd say we would need to wait on that and then sort it out from there. I mean, that'd be my off the bat thing. And also that we need to have I'll write to Ray about all the new study groups that we now need. And, and maybe if I want to push my favorite idea for the new trading mechanism for an end to neocolonialism or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll have to form my own study group or something. Determining the limits to growth, whatever. What else is that enough for now? Do we have anything else to say?
Sounds like a good place to stop.
Okay. Well, in that case, fantastic. And stay in touch with me and let me know what the heck is going on. And I'll see you whenever the next time we meet is, which I'm sure will be sometime soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.